Hello, welcome to Local Anesthetic Podcast, your weekly injection of mind-numbing local news. This is episode 333, and we are recording on the 4th of March, 5 p.m. And we are joined, as always, by Rob. 333, Rob. What do you make of that?
Do you know, as you said that, I just realised how disappointing it was that we didn't record yesterday. We could have been recording on the 3rd of the 3rd.
Yeah, why the fuck didn't we think of that?
I mean, Alex, it says a lot about our planning.
We could have lied and pretended we were recording. Actually, yes, we record. Oh, actually, no, Rob, it is the 3rd. You may have made a mistake. We're recording on the 3rd of the 3rd, and it's episode 333. No, we're not.
Well, that's covered it. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a momentous occasion. We're halfway to 666. Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but...
We should, when we get to 666, we'll specialise, we'll just do like ghost stories and weird paranormal shit. Yes, we will get to 666, Rob. We will.
Okay. Yeah, stories around sort of satanic worship and witchcraft. Again, I don't know whether this is a momentous episode, but for people who are fans of the letter 3, what the hell am I talking about? The number 3. Obviously, it's I suppose significant to them.
Well, I guess, Rob, based on your your comment that we're halfway to 666, I guess we're halfway to evil.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to do with that, but I mean, does that make us semi-evil, or does that make us slightly depraved? I don't know, Alex.
Yeah, I think that about describes us, Rob.
Yeah.
Is there any news before we get on with updating people on the crazy news out there? I'm really looking forward to this episode. I've got some great stories, but is there any news, Rob?
Well, again, ironically, this dovetails quite nicely. So, we had a submission on the Facebook page from Steve, who's just taken a screenshot, and basically he starts the comment by saying, "I was looking at my post from previous years today. I noticed that I had shared an episode of LA Podcast, and it just struck me how it looks on screen." Of course, so this was an old episode, and this goes back to 2018, so 3 years ago. And the way that so obviously when he shared the episode, the way that it's cropped our logo, it just says anal.
Anesthetic. Where's the word anal in anesthetic?
So what's happened is it's obviously cut off the rest of the E.
Yeah.
So it just has anal, and then below that, lapodcast.net.
Oh dear.
I'm surprised personally that didn't go viral. I would have thought that maybe would have boosted our ratings in some way.
Yes, quite possibly. Any other news, Rob? Thank you for that, Steve. Thank you for that observation. I don't know what you want us to do with that, but never mind.
No, not really. No. Obviously, people have been submitting stories. There's a few that I think we've covered in the last few weeks. You mentioned the man who kicked the head off the snowman. That's come up a few times.
Yeah, and people might be. Can I just say on that? People might be disappointed we didn't cover that, and the only reason we didn't is because everybody else covered it to death, and they were kind of like, that's the kind of story that we normally do, and that was other people all over our turf, and they did it. So there's no point us doing it. If you want to find out about the story, it's there.
It's 2 root 1. I agree, Alex. Yeah, no, I completely agree. But no, which for this podcast says an awful lot.
We refuse to play the long ball, Rob. We play intricate passing all the way to the goal.
Exactly, absolutely right. But no, let's crack on with the stories.
Okay, Rob. Well, I want to do a bit more. I want to do a bit of an update for you. Now, you will remember, Rob, that because a few episodes ago, was it? I think it was. What? Was it this podcast, Local Anesthetic, or was it our other podcast, Daft Talk, where we talked about Thatcher and the coal mines? That was Daft Talk, wasn't it?
It was Daft Talk, yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned about Francis Maude, an ex-Tory minister who, not under Thatcher, in the Cameron years, who talked about when there was a fuel shortage, he encouraged everybody to stock up on fuel and put it in a jerry can in your garage. And then I updated that in an episode of I think it was our last episode of LA Podcast, where I talked about that specific incident and a woman who claimed that he had killed her dog, albeit inadvertently, because when he went on TV and encouraged everybody to put fuel in a jerry can. There was a rush on a local petrol station, and in the stampede, her dog got run over, if you remember that brilliant story.
I do. Yeah, I mean, it was a very tenuous story, Alex. I'm not sure if she could really hold Frances Maud accountable there.
Well, no, but let's run with it. So let's say Frances Maud was responsible for the death of a dog, albeit inadvertently. As you will remember, we also mentioned in the episode, I think, the story we covered back in, well, many years ago now, about Michael Heseltine, who did literally, reportedly kill a dog. And because I was just reminiscing on that and wanted to go back and look at the original story, I found an update to that story, which is also a number of years old, but I just thought you'd want to know. From The Guardian, but it was reported in many other places. So this was actually from the 1st of November 2016 by Haroon Sadiq. Michael Heseltine's Alsatian strangling tale was a shaggy dog story. So this is the update. Now, I'm not sure about this. I want to know what you think.
Right.
Michael Heseltine has said that his apparent admission that he killed his mother's pet dog was nothing more than the shaggy dog story. The former Deputy Prime Minister seemingly confessed to strangling Kim, an Alsatian, in an interview with Tatler magazine. Now, I'm going to read you the quote again, because I remember we enjoyed it immensely when we first read out this story many years ago.
Oh, yes.
So he recounted this story, listeners, where, he says, I went to stroke him, which is his mother's dog, Kim, and he started biting me. And then he says, if you have a dog that turns, you just cannot risk it. So I took Tim's collar, a sort of choker chain, and I pulled it tight. Suddenly he went limp. I was devoted to Kim, but he'd obviously had some sort of mental breakdown. Now that's one of the best quotes we've ever had on LA Podcast.
Yeah.
So the 83-year-old told the story about Kim when he was asked about rumours dating back to the 90s that he was involved in the death of a dog. But after his comments were widely reported as of him having killed Kim, he told the Press Association it was an anecdote that had been misinterpreted. He said, I didn't strangle the dog. They have misunderstood. The dog was perfectly all right after this incident. The Tory peer said he took the dog to the vet the next day and was told he had no choice but to put the dog down because it was dangerous. And Tatler, of course, loyal to the Tory party, released a statement saying, Tatler thanks Lord Heseltine for his clarification about his mother's dog. Lord Heseltine has subsequently explained that after going limp, Kim regained consciousness. After much consideration, Lord Heseltine and his wife decided to take Kim to the vet the following day to be put down. We're updating the piece on tatler.co.uk accordingly. Rob, this stinks of a cover-up.
I mean, Alex, let's give the man the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't actually say he killed the dog. He said that he obviously pulled on the choke chain. The dog went limp, so it could have just lost consciousness. It doesn't say anything about him pummeling the dog to death. You know, that's pure speculation.
Why would he not have said that in the original interview? He said, you can't take any risks, so I pulled the choke chain and he went limp. That was when he was asked about, did you kill a dog? So to me, that's his confession. Now wait, Rob, break, you've got more form. In a recent book, this is obviously in 2016, called Thenford, written with his wife Anne, Heseltine claimed to have shot dead 350 grey squirrels in 6 months.
What?
He wrote, these foreign intruders may have a Walt Disney appeal in London parks, but to us they're public enemy number one and a shot without hesitation.
I mean, let's face it, this is a man who probably doesn't have a lot left to do in life. And I do imagine he just sits, maybe staying out the window of his country estate with his pellet gun and just occasionally just take pot shots at whatever they may be passing. Whether that's a squirrel, a horse, a person.
Well, reinforcing her husband's no-nonsense image in an interview with The Guardian last month, his wife Anne revealed that the former cabinet minister once punched a man who approached him as he was turning home from Parliament. Don't you remember, she said, addressing Heseltine, you were coming back from the House of Commons and a man approached you. He was a drunk or druggy or something and you just went vroomf and he fell over and nobody was more surprised than you.
Do you think that man was a drunk or a druggie? Or...
I think he was just a member of the working class, Rob.
Yeah, this is what I think. Maybe Heseltine just had a bad day in Parliament and just wanted to vent some frustration at the general public.
It reminds me of Blackadder the Fourth, I think, where Lord Melchett punches Baldrick and just shouts at him, "Get away from me, you pauper!" That kind of thing. What I love, Rob, that I didn't know at the time is this death of the dog. Well, the RSPCA were contacted about it. But the society said they could not investigate the dog's death because the incident occurred more than 3 years ago. As if the RSPCA were going to do fuck all anyway, Rob, based on past form. I know we've slandered the name of the RSPCA, but with good reason.
Well, Alex, I think it's very difficult to try and to prosecute on the basis that I'm assuming the dog had been incinerated. So, it's very, very difficult to try and establish a crime there.
Right, Rob, talking of one sort of useless organisation, let's move on to another one. Now, I have no doubt, Rob, I'm really dreading that you may have seen this story. I have to assume you have. If I say to you it is Pontins related?
Do you know what? I haven't read the story. I've flicked past it a few times, and I was going back and forth about this, but it is a great story. So
you have read it?
I haven't. No, I've just seen the headline, which kind of says everything you need to know.
Well, Rob and I have to update every Pontin story we've got a really good back catalogue of Pontin stories for anybody who wants to trawl through all 332 past episodes. This is by Robert Booth from the Traitorous Guardian. Secret Pontins blacklist prevented people with Irish surnames from booking. I mean, Rob, this is extraordinary. You say it tells you everything you need to know. It really doesn't. It's worse. Okay.
Like I said, I haven't read the stories, but Alex, it really says something that they're blacklisting. I mean, who are they letting in? That's the question you need to ask.
What Rob and I have learned about Pontins is, like, they should pay you to go there. It should be we've said before, Rob, haven't we? We want to see a reality TV show on ITV hosted by Noel Edmonds called Noel Edmonds Pontins Challenge, Celebrity Pontins Challenge, where celebrities are paid to stay in Pontins for 2 weeks, and we just see what happens. So this is a story. A blacklist circulated by the holiday park operator, that is tenuous to call them that, I would say, Rob. Pontins, telling its staff not to book accommodation for people with Irish surnames has been described as completely unacceptable by Downing Street. The list of, in quotes, undesirable guests was sent out to booking operators who were told, "We do not want these guests on our parks." It said, "Please watch out for the following names for any future bookings." The list included names such as Carney, Boylan, McGuinness, is it Boylan? Or Boylan, I guess, yeah. McGuinness.
Yeah, I think so.
Amahoney, as well as an example of and all of this was an example of anti-traveller discrimination, a spokesperson for Boris Johnson said. The document had a picture of a wizard holding up a wand and staff declaring, "You shall not pass." The attached memo said...
Brilliant.
The attached memo said several guests are unwelcome at Pontins. However, some of these will still try and book, especially in the school holidays. But the list only provided surnames. A whistleblower who... Now, what I want to know is, Rob, there's somebody within Pontins who's whistleblown about this, right?
Yeah.
Is this the only thing that they need to whistleblow about? I mean, I'm surprised this is the first... This is like... Pontins reminds me of North Korea. This person's the first defector, but it's taken decades. I think now we're going to get a snowballing. This could bring down Pontins, Rob.
Alex, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, what else could they possibly be whistleblowing about? The spotless, pristine holiday chalets, the great quality food, the fantastic family-oriented entertainment. What are you referring to?
The first Pontins, Rob, was founded after the Second World War on a former US military base and expanded during a mid-century heyday. That led me to thinking, Rob, do we think that Pontins was a US-led psyop?
Are you trying to maintain that Pontins was some sort of deep state invasion of the United Kingdom by the US Air Force?
No, well, I think the US Air Force, I think the US military may have built them or started the ball rolling so they could observe, rather in experimental conditions, observe the British public in this sort of, this sort of goldfish bowl of Pontins, because they will have learnt a lot, Rob. They will have learnt that, well, I mean, draw your own conclusions.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they would have learned, apart from the fact that the great... maybe they literally saw the downfall of the British Empire.
Or maybe they've been recruiting sort of informants and sort of undercover secret agents from people who frequent Pontins. I mean, it's the perfect ruse, Rob. Nobody would ever guess. No one would ever suspect them. You're right. Anyway, continues in that vein. So that's the update on Pontins. Right, Rob, we're going to report on a paper we've never heard from before, a local newspaper. I don't believe we have. You can tell me if we have. I do not believe we ever have. In fact, I'm almost certain of it. It's from the Edinburgh Evening News, whose tagline is, "News you can trust since 1873. I like that. Because before 1873, Rob, they were a totally untrustworthy publication. I mean, I don't think every day. I don't think that's right, Alex. I think what it was is the people of Scotland were illiterate before 1873. That is, of course,
obviously a joke.
I hope so, Rob, because I do have some Scottish blood in me. Now listen.
I know, but again, you bought it off the internet, right? So I've done that joke before. Anyway.
This is by Alexander Laurie. This is a brilliant story, Rob. This is your quintessential local anaesthetic, local news story.
Lovely.
Edinburgh woman bit off man's tongue in street brawl before seagull swooped down and ate it.
Oh, brilliant. Just brilliant. Yeah.
James Mackenzie spat out a piece of his tongue onto the street after Bethany Ryan, 27, had ripped it off with her teeth during an incident in Edinburgh. Now, I thought this was just sort of daily, sort of harmless banter in Scotland on a daily basis, that kind of thing. I mean, that's a sign of affection, isn't it? Biting off somebody's tongue.
I mean, Alex, we've made two very stereotypical slurs against the Scottish within the space of 5 minutes. I mean, I'm assuming were they?
I'm allowed to though, because I actually do have quite a lot of Scottish blood, buddy.
Yeah, well, and I've been to Edinburgh on at least
that doesn't. But that doesn't count.
3 occasions.
My grandmother was Scottish. MacLeish is her surname.
Well, I'm sure, Alex, if I go back far enough, I'm sure I can find some Scottish lineage.
It's all Welsh. Well, try it. Let's put you on. In fact, because I've done a DNA test, I'd like you to get one. It might clear up a lot of things.
Yeah, I think I'm Aryan.
Right. But look, Rob. The gull then flew down and grabbed the mussel, making off before the injured man could retrieve it. Edinburgh Sheriff Court was told about the grisly incident, which left the victim maimed for life when Ryan appeared in the dock to plead guilty to the attack last Thursday. Prosecutor Susan Dixon said the pair clashed as they passed each other on Leith Walk at around 8 p.m. on August 1st, 2019. Miss Dickinson said the pair were strangers, but an argument developed between them. The court heard Ryan had tried to walk away from the confrontation. Mackenzie continued to be aggressive towards Ryan, and he approached her again with a clenched fist. Miss Dixon said Miss Ryan, somewhat oddly, responded to that by pushing him on the body and kissing him. I just want you to be aware of what's going on here. So he's come at her with a clenched fist. She responds by pushing him and kissing him. She kissed him on the lips, and during the course of that kiss, she bit through his tongue, which caused a piece of his tongue to be removed. Mr. Mackenzie walked off, spat that part of his tongue out, at which point the piece of muscle was picked up by a large seagull that made off with it. Rob, this sounds like an episode of Raz C. Nesbitt.
Really? Yeah, it really does. So, was this all foreplay? I'm really confused now.
Yeah, I get just common Scottish foreplay, Rob. The chunk of tongue that was bitten off was approximately 2 to 3 centimetres in size. We're talking substantial here, Rob.
Yeah, I would say it's probably what? That must be about approaching half, no, probably not half, but at least a third of a tongue. That's quite shocking.
Yep. Ryan was later arrested by police. Mackenzie attended hospital for treatment where the laceration to his tongue was oozing blood. He did not require surgery given the piece of tongue was no longer available and could not be reattached. I wonder if they went on a seagull hunt. I mean, that seagull was quick. I think seagulls in Scotland, I've heard that seagulls, migrate to Scotland at certain times of year and are just circling the major cities, waiting for street brawls to happen so they can pick up tongues, like dismembered fingers, toes, whatever else comes loose.
I've heard that as well, Alex, I must admit. But I must admit, let's be honest though, this guy must have been in a state of shock because, I mean, if I just imagine put your tongue back in your mouth and realising that at least probably half of it has been
you're fucked,
severed.
You know?
But then would you spit it out? I think I want to try and at least keep it to one side. I wouldn't just spit it onto the floor.
Well, I don't know. I don't think you can judge the man here. Ryan pleaded guilty to assaulting James Mackenzie by pushing him on the body, kissing him, and biting off his tongue to causing him severe injury and permanent disfigurement. That is the story. So because that is a permanent disability, really, of a kind now, because he won't be able to. I mean, it's going to affect your ability to talk, I would have thought.
Yeah, it does, because the tongue actually use your tongue to try and form words. So yeah, that is going to have quite a big impact, really.
And his wife, if he has one, will also be disappointed.
Exactly. He's going to have to buy some sort of battery-operated gadget.
Now, Rob, last story. We're going to Miami.
Okay, lovely.
From the Miami Herald, which we have reported from before, from its crime section. It's by David Avali. Now, this is February the 16th, 2021. Now, actually, this is kind of an update on a previous story they reported on, which I'm gutted that I missed, but luckily it covers it, because it's absolutely extraordinary.
Right.
Headline: Miami. Now, I think I covered in the last LA podcast, didn't I? A story about a lawyer. There was that lawyer who was who was visiting inmates in prison, claiming to be their lawyer, and then filming pornographic videos with them. And I said it reminded me of Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. This is another example of that. Headline: Miami lawyer whose pants caught fire during arson trial arrested on cocaine charge.
Okay, again, there's a lot to take in there.
So, the Miami lawyer who drew worldwide notoriety after his pants caught fire during an arson trial has been arrested on a cocaine charge. Now, luckily, Rob, you will get to hear about that. Stephen Gutierrez, 32, whose law licence is currently revoked, was pulled over Monday night near Westchester and arrested on a felony cocaine charge. According to a Miami-Dade police report, he was pulled over for driving without a working headlight. An officer saw a bulge in his pocket, believed it was a knife, turned out to be a metal cylinder with white powder inside.
Oh my God!
And Gutierrez spontaneously just blurted out, "That's cocaine."
Well, I mean, why, Alex? You know, he's a good man. He's an honest man. Apart from obviously when his pants caught on fire. Yeah.
Well, he was jailed briefly Tuesday morning before posting bond. He did not answer his cell phone Tuesday morning. The arrest adds to the mounting woes for Gutierrez, who was ordered suspended for 91 days by the Florida Supreme Court in November. So this is what happened, Rob. In March 2017, so 4 years ago, Gutierrez was representing a Miami man accused of torching his own car for insurance money.
Okay.
Right? So he's defending him. And this was a story first reported by the Miami Herald. And he was arguing to jurors that a blaze might be caused by spontaneous combustion. So he's defending this man. So this man has been accused of torching his own car for insurance money.
Yeah.
And Better Call Saul style, his defense is, well, maybe he did, but maybe the car spontaneously combusted. Right? And as he's making this argument, literally as he's making it, smoke begins billowing from his pants as well as flames.
So, I don't understand. How?
Gutierrez went running out the courtroom as bewildered jurors and spectators watched. He blamed a faulty battery in his electronic cigarette for igniting his pocket at a coincidental time. The episode generated national and international headlines. After an investigation, prosecutors said it seemed obvious the fire was a stunt or demonstration meant to illustrate the feasibility of his spontaneous combustion theory of defense. So he also risked kind of really singeing his own privates and the top of his thighs with this. This is how much Robbie cared about defending his client.
He was basically willing to set himself on fire to prove that spontaneous combustion is a thing.
Now, Rob, can I just say that this phrase that I've just read out, I would put as one of our best episode titles ever. I'm going to make a petition for it now.
Okay.
The feasibility of the spontaneous combustion theory of defense.
Yes, absolutely.
But they did not charge Gutierrez, saying they could not prove he acted with criminal intent. Gutierrez pleaded guilty to Florida bar violations, including filing a bogus insurance claim related to the arson case. His license was revoked in November. In pleading guilty, he blamed his contact of him on a myriad of personal problems and attributed the stunt to, in quotes, a lack of experience and a complete understanding of the true meaning of zealous advocacy, also a good episode title, rather than his honest or selfish motive. The lack of experience and complete understanding of the true meaning of zealous advocacy. Oh my God, that's almost even better.
I think that is better, actually. That's beautiful.
Now, Rob, before you report on your stories, I just wanted to say that I did come across a story that I'm not reading out because it was very tedious, but it just had a headline which was sort of an oven-ready-made headline for an episode title, even though we've just covered two potential candidates. It simply is, it's from the Gastro Obscura magazine, and
right.
by Luke Fatter, and the headline is "Inside the Gently Competitive World of Giant Vegetable Growing."
Oh my God.
But I don't know. It's too on the nose. I think we've had that kind of thing before. The last two were top draw, Premier League.
Yeah. Okay, if you insist, that's fine. But I do like that, I have to say.
But also, we should really have an episode title that relates to some of the stories we've covered, and I'm not covering. I agree. Story. But for the sort of sticklers out there, the people who sort of keep databases of all these episodes, you could make a note that a potential other episode title would have been this. It could, in another world, it could have been called that, Rob. Okay, Rob, you have some stories for us.
Yeah, 2 stories. The first is from the Traitorous Guardian.
Boo.
I can't remember where I found this. It was kind of buried away. It's from the 26th of February, so I've had it a few, well over a week. The journalist is Justin McCurry, who apparently is in Tokyo and agencies.
Justin McCurry. Do we think he's Irish? Do we think he's banned from Pontins?
I think he's more Scottish, Alex. I always think that Muck is more Scottish. Maybe his parents just named him after. Well, actually, it's his surname, so it wouldn't do. But yeah, maybe they were just a fan of a certain restaurant.
Well, it would be Scottish. You're right. I was being stupid, like McLeish, like my grandmother, Rob.
Sorry, your grandmother was. Oh, McLeish. Sorry. For a second there, I thought you said Dalgleish, and I was going to make a joke.
My grandmother's dead, Rob.
Yep. So's my cat, Alex.
I don't think you can compare the two, but fair enough.
Well, you know, my cat was a lot better.
Wow.
But no, seriously.
My grandmother was a real cat person, so maybe she is stroking socks in heaven.
I hope not. Sorry, that's really harsh. No, it's a lovely image of your grandma stroking my cat, which again I just have to say is really not a euphemism in any way, shape, or form. Right, okay. Anyway, let's go on with the story. So, now it's not a particularly long story, and there is a bit of detail to it. The headline is: Russian diplomats leave North Korea on hand-powered rail trolley.
Right, I saw this story. I had it in my inbox to potentially read out. We talked, didn't we, about this whistleblower from Pontins being potentially the first defector, rather like the first defector from North Korea who managed to escape. Well, this is related to that. Yeah,
apart from the fact they're obviously allowed to leave in this situation.
But do you think they were allowed to leave? That wasn't my reading of the story.
Well, I mean, they were assisted in their endeavours.
Yes, but not by the North Korean government.
No, that's a good point, actually.
No, that's my point. Yeah.
So, in normal times, most diplomats can expect to end a foreign posting with an official, if not always fond farewell from their hosts, and a comfortable journey back to their native country. But for one group of Russian envoys and their families, the coronavirus pandemic meant there was only one way home, under their own steam on a hand-pushed rail trolley. So, a video clip shows some members of the group smiling and shouting for the camera as they push the trolley over the bridge spanning the Truman River, which divides North Korea and Russia. Now, I have to say, I didn't realise that North Korea and Russia shared a border, so that's news to me.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Terrifying.
It's interesting that you don't ever hear of North Koreans trying to defect to Russia, interestingly.
No, because, most North Koreans want to leave for a better life, Alex.
I don't, and also I'm not sure they'd be given sanctuary, unlike South Korea. Yeah.
I imagine that they would, I think it's fair to say, just disappear quite quickly.
Can you just think of this, Rob? Korea, which at one point was unified. Imagine if like the Scots declared independent, like they had another referendum, they declared independence, and they became a fascist, totalitarian dictatorship a la North Korea. I'm not saying it'd be headed by Nicola Sturgeon. I think Alex Salmond will probably come back and do that. But
yeah.
But again, sorry to any of our Scottish listeners, but again, my grandmother was Scottish, so it's all right. What do you make of that, Rob? I mean, imagine that happening. Chilling. Absolutely chilling.
It would be... It would, like, just the image of them closing the borders, I think, would be very difficult. You get to Hadrian's Wall, and that's the end of the country. It's very difficult to imagine, Alex. I think
Rob?
The way the Scottish are, I mean, I think if anybody, then I can easily believe it.
I think the trouble is, Rob, I think in that equation, if anybody's likely to become the fascist totalitarian regime, it will be us, not the Scots.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, just imagine it, Alex. The Scots go ultra-liberal, the Welsh become communists, and then there's us in the centre, a fascist nation. I mean, we could go to war with Wales and Scotland. There's an idea for you.
To be fair, Rob, you've although it's an extreme version, you've kind of described the makeup of the nations already. I mean, Wales is a bit communist, run by Labour.
Yeah.
Scotland already is pretty liberal, I would say. and we are more we're completely right wing.
Yeah, just bitter and twisted. It's true. So, back to the story. A still image captures the trolley loaded down with suitcases as it makes its way along the wintry North Korean countryside. So the
Rob, I'm really sorry to disrupt, but can I just ask you a completely this is a non sequitur, completely unrelated question to what you're talking about. Is there any amount of money in the world, and I mean any amount, that you would take to give Steve Bannon a hand job?
Right, Alex. Sorry, where has that come from?
You talked about bitter and twisted, and my immediate thought was Steve Bannon.
Well, I mean, Alex, this man is married, I believe.
Right. No, you've got to give him the hand job.
Yeah, I appreciate. I have a feeling as well his wife filed for divorce. I think that was Steve Bannon. I mean, what's the context here? Would I have to look at him? I mean, it could be a reach around arrangement.
It could be a reach around, but it's got to be your hand on his penis.
Does there have to be skin on skin contact?
Yes.
That's disappointing. Does that have to be my skin?
Yes.
Can I just like sheathe my hand in some like pig skin or something?
No,
you might enjoy that.
I'm sure I'd enjoy that.
I mean, we're talking millions, Alex. It'll be a lot.
So hang on, you've actually just okay. I don't think there's any amount of money you could offer me in the world that would get me to do that. But
no, that is patently bullshit. I refuse to believe that. I sincerely believe that 50 quid you would happily give Steve Bannon a hand job in any situation you find yourself in.
Okay, all right. Well, Bannon, get in contact with both of us, and we'll see who breaks first.
The country continues to insist to widespread skepticism that it's not recorded a single case of COVID, or that it has reportedly quarantined tens of thousands of people in an attempt to prevent an outbreak.
Rob, can I say, right?
It's a precaution.
What I love about North Korea, right, is they're so mental that it didn't occur to them that to be more believable, why didn't they just suppress the numbers and say, yes, we've had 200 deaths or whatever. But to say you've had 0 just makes you sound stupid.
Yeah, it does, especially when you've also said that you've apparently quarantined, or at least what was the expression? They've quarantined tens of thousands of people to avoid that happening. I mean, so basically, what are you trying to do?
It's a strategy of Comical Alley. Do you remember him, where he would just claim, well, as tanks were rolling into Baghdad behind him, he'd claim there was no problem, and they were routing the Americans. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, sorry, Rob, I digress.
Just out of interest, do you think Comical Alley was the was the man that Trump styled himself upon? Just flat out refusal of the facts.
Well, no, but I think you could probably trace the beginning of that. If we could go back, Rob, in time and look at what was the breaking point, if you like, what was the dividing line in human history between truth and facts and post-truth and post-facts, and it was him.
Yeah.
And his statements, as I say, on TV while you're clearly watching, Iraqi cities decimated, that they're winning and they're driving the US forces back and there's no problem here. That, to me, might be the... and to be fair, before that, the claim that Iraq had WMD is probably the key marker in that.
Yeah. That probably kicked it off.
But he was the supporting act who came along and just added to the general sense of confusion the world has never managed to get out of since.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So the group of 8, including a 3-year-old child, travelled 32 hours by train and 2 hours by bus from North Korean capital of Pyongyang, thank you. To reach the Russian border on Thursday, the foreign minister added. The minister name-checked the embassy's third secretary, Vladislav Sokin, as the trolley's engine after he pushed it for more than a kilometre. The group used a trolley to cover the short, final leg of the journey across the border and were greeted by officials on the Russian side before travelling by bus to Vladivostok Airport. And that's the end of the story.
If I was going to escape, Rob, I'm not going to talk about North Korea because it's unfair to the North Koreans, because it actually is, it's a stain on humanity, and in years to come we'll look back and wonder why the world didn't do anything. But let's say, Rob, in our fictitious split between England and Scotland that we were talking about earlier, let's say that we did become the fascist totalitarian state and nobody was allowed to leave, and I had to try and escape England and get into Scotland, I do think I would try a catapult. Because you could build it in your back garden, and I'd just aim for a wooded area of Scotland and take my chances.
It's an idea, Alex. I can't believe no one's tried it before.
Well, we're not. We're allowed to travel to Scotland freely at the moment, Rob. Well, we were before. Shit. Maybe this is the beginning of it, Rob.
Maybe the war's already going up, Alex. Who knows? I mean, wars have been going up in many countries around the world. One country in particular. It's only a matter of time before we realise that there's just basically Scotland have just basically cut themselves off from the rest of the United Kingdom.
I wouldn't blame them.
No, nor can I. Alex, now my next story is from the Lancs Live. Now, I really, really hope you haven't heard this story. Now, it did
Lancashire
do the rounds.
Live?
Yeah.
Okay, no. It doesn't. Well, so far it's not ringing a bell, but you never know.
Okay, because this is a great story, and like I said, it did do the rounds, unfortunately. So it's by Liam Thorpe and John McPherson. It is from the 18th of February. And the headline: Man 32 offered COVID jab because NHS thought he was 6 centimetres tall, giving him a BMI of 28,000.
Right, I did see this. All I saw was the headline about the 28,000. I thought about reading it and then I couldn't be bothered. But this sounds even better than I thought. 6 centimetres tall.
Yes.
I mean, you're what, 10, 20 centimetres? So, I mean, that's tiny.
Yeah, roughly.
6 centimetres? That's the length.
Yes.
That's double the length of the tongue that was cut off. Who would be... Do you know what's weird about this, Rob? I was getting home from I think it was the supermarket the other day or whatever in my car, and I saw what I believed was a child walking down the street. But it didn't look like a child from something to do with him. I was intrigued, and as I drove up into my road, I sort of turned and looked, and it was just a very small woman. But when I say that, she wasn't she wasn't a what's the word, Rob?
Yeah, we know what you're saying, Alex.
Right, she was just very, very small, but like a child, Rob. It was very odd. She was probably in her late 50s. I mean, it was bizarre.
Okay, it's good to know. So, a 32-year-old man with no underlying health issues was mistakenly prioritised for a COVID vaccine because doctors thought he was 6 centimetres tall and morbidly obese.
He'd just be this fat.
He'd just be
pancake, wouldn't he?
He'd just be a mound of fat.
Rob, this doesn't give me faith in the vaccination program.
No. Why did no one query this, Alex?
Do you know what I'm also worried about with the vaccination thing? And it's that somebody told me the other day they'd had the vaccine and they felt really sick for 2 days, worse than when they'd actually had COVID. And asking around, I found that other people who'd had COVID, who'd had the vaccine, tended to have a reaction. And I looked this up, and apparently it's a well-known thing that if you've had COVID, you're more likely to have a reaction to the vaccine because, of course, you already have the antibodies. So it's actually a good thing because they respond strongly, but it means you're more likely to get a whole host of symptoms. So I don't really want the vaccine at the moment because I had COVID and I don't want 2 days of feeling like shit.
I've heard the same thing, actually. Yeah, people tend to have a far harsher response to it.
Like,
Alex, it means
Rob?
Death, mainly.
No, go on, tell me. Like what?
Well, no, I think, as you said, it seems like a resurgence of symptoms. It's that bad. But, Alex, if nothing else, something to look forward to.
You see, now I just want to avoid it. And also, I'm now one of these people as well. You hear about, because you read all these stories, you think I would want to, I kind of like have a preference for a certain vaccine now. Like the AstraZeneca one, the Oxford one, seems like a low grade one. I want the good one, Rob.
There was a story on Sky News that apparently people were refusing the vaccine because they were waiting for the Oxford AstraZeneca because it was British made.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck is wrong with you? Seriously, it's not even the most effective.
It's not even British made, is it? It's a combination of us and the Germans, I think, isn't it, or somebody else?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that's right. So right, okay, let's continue with the story. So Liam Thorpe, who is hang on, sorry. So Liam Thorpe was actually one of the journalists listed. I didn't clock that first time round. Interesting. So Liam Thorpe, who was actually 6'2" in height, said he was really surprised.
What, are you saying he also wrote the article?
Yeah, the article is by Liam Thorpe and John McPherson.
Unless it's just a weird coincidence.
Oh no, he's a journalist. He literally wrote the story about himself.
Ah, amazing. Okay.
So Liam Thorpe, talking about himself in the third person, who was actually 6'2" in height, said he was really surprised to be invited for a jab and to learn he'd been placed in Group 6 for the rollout due to his weight. Because of the clerical mix-up, doctors thought he had a body mass index of 28,000. A BMI of 40 is considered morbidly obese. So, if 40 is morbidly obese, what the hell is 28,000? And why did no one question this? So the journalist said he couldn't understand why he'd been picked for the jab when there are still so many out there in greater need. After speaking to several people about his upcoming appointment, Liam decided to give his doctor a call and find out if there'd been some mistake, and it turned out there had. His doctor informed him that he'd been invited to a vaccine as he'd been placed in Group 6 for the rollout due to his weight, which they put down as being morbidly obese. This sparked plenty of questions as the political editor was under the impression there was nothing wrong with his weight. The next day, the doctor Sodi called back to confirm there had been a bit of a mix-up, in which Liam claims one of the most bizarre phone calls of his life.
Did somebody write down instead of 6 foot 6 centimeters?
Basically, yeah. So he recalled the conversation in an article for The Echo, writing, "A nervous-sounded chap on the line quietly explained to me there had been a mix-up in offering me the jab at this stage. He said, unfortunately, my details have been put in the system incorrectly when I registered with the GP a year ago. He was very polite and very apologetic and said I was, in fact, not due to get my vaccine anytime soon." The man from the surgery took a sharp intake of breath and tried to remain composed as he informed me that rather than my height registered as 6'2", it'd been put into the system as 6'2" centimeters.
But you would have thought that when they looked at this, somebody would have said, okay, that says 6.2 centimetres. Obviously, that's a mistake. It must say 6'2", because if he was 6 centimetres, he'd be like the size of a rat.
Not even that, I don't think. Yeah, it really is quite concerning.
Well, yeah, but, a baby rat.
I'm very pleased to say he's now lost all the weight and grown quite substantially.
Before we get on to our list of Story of the Week, Rob, I have a superb story for us from the New York Times.
Okay.
I did find it in other places, but this was, I think, where the original story came from and was just covered brilliantly. Rob, this is extraordinary. It was by Johnny Diaz on the 23rd of February 2021. Headline: Arizona man is accused of faking own kidnapping to evade work.
I mean, Alex, we've all considered it. I must admit, there are many times when I've been lying in bed first thing in the morning and thought, I could probably stage a kidnap right now.
Rob, look, this is not without an understatement that I think this goes into just in terms of most extraordinary stories, into our top 10 easily. Right?
Okay.
Netflix just needs to do a documentary about this. The authorities in Arizona accused a man of going to extreme lengths to get out of work this month, saying he faked his own kidnapping, bound his own wrists, gagged himself, and invented a story of treasure hidden in the desert. The man, Brandon Souls, was arrested last week on the charge of false reporting to law enforcement. The police in Coolidge, Arizona, said in a statement that outlined a scheme they believe was intended to get Mr. Souls excused from his job at a tyre store. In the statement, the police said that Mr. Souls, 19 years old, admitted during an interview with detectives that he had made up the kidnapping story which led to his arrest. He was booked at the Coolidge Police Department and released with a court date. Can I just say, this is another story which is straight out of Breaking Bad, which I know you haven't seen yet, Rob, but when you do get around to watching it, you'll know what I mean. Mr. Souls did not immediately respond to a message on Tuesday, and it was not clear whether he had a lawyer. The police arrested Mr. Souls on February the 17th after a week-long investigation led them to treat his case as a hoax. The news site Pinal Central reported that day. The police were first called at about 5:25 p.m. on February the 10th when officers responded to a report about an injured man in an area near train tracks, houses, and a city water tower in Coolidge, a city of around 13,000 people, about 55 miles outside Phoenix, Arizona. Rob, this is in the middle of nowhere. I'm telling you that right now. I've been to Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. The caller reported that the man was going in and out of consciousness. When the officers arrived, they found the man, later identified as Mr. Sauls, with his hands bound behind his back by a belt, a purple bandana stuffed in his mouth, according to the police, and a photo from the police department showed the man with his hands tied while lying on his side on the ground. So if you've got an image of a man in the middle of the desert, Rob, lying near a train track on his side, hands bound behind his back with a belt, and a purple bandana in his mouth, drifting in and out of consciousness.
Alex, why didn't he just pull a sickie? Why did he go through this much effort?
Well, exactly. You just say my grandma's died. Or my cat's died.
Yeah, exactly. Or, I'm locked in my house or something like this. I mean, I have to ask, was there kind of a sexual thing here?
I don't know. Mr. Sauls told officers that after completing an errand, so do you want to hear this is what he told them when they found him?
Okay.
That after completing an errand that morning, he returned to his home where 2 masked men abducted him near his vehicle, struck him on the back of his head, and knocked him unconscious, according to the arrest report. The men then drove him around in a vehicle before they left him in the area where he was found. Mr. Sauls was taken to hospital, where he was evaluated and interviewed by the police. According to the department, he told investigators he'd been kidnapped because his father had a large amount of money hidden throughout the desert. And that's, by the way, why I'm working in a tyre store.
Yeah. But Alex, maybe he doesn't know either. Maybe he's going out every night trying to find these hidden millions. Who knows?
I honestly believe this man has watched too many episodes of Breaking Bad, because this is literally out of Breaking Bad. For days, detectives tried to investigate his account, including by reviewing surveillance video of the area and interviewing the people he mentioned. Hospital records showed that Mr. Sauls had no concussion or injury to his head, and text messages reviewed by the detectives did not show messages or phone calls that he had described. Eventually, and after repeatedly confronting Mr. Sauls with problems in his account, the detectives concluded that his story was fabricated and no kidnapping or assault occurred. They also determined that the account of hidden treasure was false. Mr. Sauls worked at a car shop, the tyre factory, where he installed tyres and drove around the area to pick up parts for the store. A manager for the store declined to comment on the arrest on Tuesday. According to Mr. Sauls' Facebook profile, he no longer works there. And
That's probably for the best.
Is the end of the story. That is a sort of 1 hour, 1 episode Netflix special right there. Right, Rob? It is time, as I unsheath my rigid purple rod, for our... I used to be quite good at this, and I will admit, Rob, that my recording, I haven't been practicing as much as I did in the past, and I feel I've been a bit lazy, so this is going to really knock your socks off. Sorry, not referencing the cat.
Yeah.
Listener story of the week.
That wasn't actually too bad.
Well, the thing, Rob, I mean, I do just want to say, obviously, if I wanted to play every note of da 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 da, I could, but this is like a jazz rendition of it. You're playing the notes is too easy, Rob. It's about interpretation. It's about experimentation. It's about something a bit sort of off kilter, off key, dangerous even, Rob.
I'm not sure jazz is just playing an established tune and missing out key notes. I think if you look on Wikipedia, that's the exact definition of jazz, Rob. Right, okay, fair enough. Right. Anyway, let's go with the listener story. So this week it was submitted by Amy. Now,
Amy from Nottingham.
Yeah, well, near to.
Right.
I have to say that every time. She's not from Nottingham. She's actually just...
Where does she live?
Oh, God, I can't remember. Every time. It's like... it's not Long Eaton. It might be Long Eaton. I can't remember, Alex. It's in the vicinity.
Amy, where do you live, Amy? Tell us where you live.
I think it's close to Derby. Amy, you've told me before, and I'll be honest, I'm just tired and can't remember. Anyway, Alex, this story is... well, let's face it, it will be very fitting on episode 666 because there's a paranormal element here, Alex.
Oh, good.
It's from the Daily Star, so a source you can trust. It's by Bernie Torre, and
do you know what, the Daily Star, if they were clever, what they should have done is over the last couple of years when Trump was around, they should have just had a tagline on their paper that said Daily Star, fake news every day. or something like that.
Fake news you can trust.
Yeah, even better.
Yeah. Is it? Oh yeah, I just read the journalist. Okay, headline: horrified dog food factory worker. It's a good start.
Can you imagine working in a dog food factory, Rob?
I mean, I'd say that's probably more depressing than working in a tyre store somehow.
Do you think there's a man in a dog food factory somewhere who's been alone on a shift sort of thing and has wondered what it would feel like, American Pie style, to insert himself into a pile of dog food? I think there has.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah,
because he'd think, well, it's only dogs going to eat it, so yeah. Maybe it's a weekly ritual in these factories.
Might even enhance the flavour. Who knows? So, horrified dog food factory worker saw 7-foot telepathic alien mantis while cycling home.
And this isn't John Mooner, because would it surprise you if John Mooner's actual vocation was working in a dog food factory?
No, it wouldn't.
Now, when you say 7 foot, do you mean 7 centimetres, Rob? Which would be about the size of a praying mantis. Can I tell you a story about a praying mantis, Rob?
If you want, yeah, sure.
I went on holiday as a kid. I can't remember where it was. It was abroad somewhere. I think it might have been Portugal. I don't know if they're praying mantis in Portugal, but I think that's where it was. It might not have been, but somewhere where praying mantises are. I'd never seen a praying mantis before in my life, and I was out in this sort of field area, grassy area, lots of kids playing, and we had these sort of even though there wasn't sand, we had these sort of sandcastle things, and I saw everybody's looking around for insects, and I happened to see this majestic praying mantis, Rob, on a sort of reed. It was just sat there, and I took these 2 sandcastle sort of tubs that I had. I ran off, found them, got them, and they kind of like had turrets like a castle at the top so that they could sort of interlock. And my plan was to put them around the praying mantis, interlock them, and I would have it in there, and then I could take it and show people and go, hey, look, I've found a praying mantis. But unfortunately, as I did it, I sliced off its head.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
This is a childhood story about me killing animals. I mean, it doesn't bode well, does it, Rob?
Yeah. I mean, it puts all your comments about the socks really into light. Well, look, Alex.
Well, do you want another story about a praying mantis?
No,
I shagged one once.
Alex, don't burn through them. We need these kind of anecdotes for later episodes.
You don't want to hear about my sexual escapade with a praying mantis at Pontins?
Yeah, I mean, definitely keep that for a later date. Right. Anyway. A cyclist said he fled from an evil 7-foot telepathic alien mantis and has drawn a picture of the bizarre creature.
There's an episode title.
An evil 7-foot tall telepathic alien mantis.
This is a story out of John Mooner's almanac.
Let's face it, if John Mooner was working in a dog food factory and obviously having sex with the tins, he would also be eating it as well, wouldn't he? I could just imagine him sitting at home eating dog food.
I think that's what he does anyway.
Spotting things in the sky that are apparently UFOs.
Rob, honest question, and be honest with the listeners and with me. Have you ever eaten dog food? Not for a dare, but out of desperation.
No. No, Alex, I haven't, no.
Okay.
I know that comes as great disappointment to you, but no, it hasn't happened.
I thought it was your Sunday roast. Growing up on the farm.
I'm going to continue with the story.
Or wherever you were.
And has drawn a picture of the bizarre creature for the Daily Star.
Am I allowed to look it up?
You can do, yeah.
Okay, so give me the headline. Give me the headline.
Horrified dog food worker saw 7-foot telepathic alien mantis while cycling home. It's a good picture, actually.
There aren't many great matches for my search. I think I've spelled mantis wrong. Hang on. The picture of the man. I'm sorry, I've got a picture of the man holding up the picture. The man, he's got the hair like you used to have, Rob, but a bit shorter, but he looks deranged. And he's holding up a picture. Why is the praying mantis looks like it's doing like a Bee Gees dance, Rob? Staying alive.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, hadn't got that.
And I love the fact he's drawn some arrows at the side and with 7 foot.
Yeah, I like that. It shows the scale, Alex. You need to know that. It's important.
Right. Was this man on drugs? Or acid.
No, he was on dog food. So, poor Frog at 26 likened his ordeal to a spider eating a fly on the David Attenborough documentary.
Right.
Now, I love the fact it says, the shaggy-haired warehouse worker insisted he was not on booze or drugs as he shared his sketch of the E.T. with the Daily Star.
Sorry, okay. How does he... Right, okay, so first of all, I see a 7-foot praying mantis cycling home.
Yeah.
Why am I not going to conclude that it's some aberration of nature? Why do I think that it's an extraterrestrial? How do I know it's telepathic? Because unless I'm telepathic, how do I know whether or not it's reading my mind? Where's he extrapolated all this from?
You're jumping ahead.
Oh, sorry.
You're jumping ahead. He told of how he fled after stumbling across the creatures. He cycled home through woodland in Warwick. Paul said, "It sounds crazy, but I felt like it could sense its feelings towards me. And it was just like pure alien hatred. That's how he knew it's telepathic, because it could sense the resentment, the hatred."
How does he know it could sense it?
Well, he just had a feeling, Alex.
So he's the one that's telepathic then. Right. Right, Rob,
maybe.
Did they make love in the woods?
I mean, if you look at the next quote, no. So, when you're watching a David Attenborough documentary and you see a spider eating a fly and it's just a malevolent sense of evil, yeah? You know that situation?
Well, yeah, but the spider's not evil for doing it. That's just what the spider's programmed to do, even, biologically.
Well, that's how he felt towards the praying mantis, Alex.
Right.
Or there was a sinister sense there, as if the praying mantis was going to eat him there and then, not in a sexual way.
I think that this man had a bad breakup with the girlfriend, and this is him processing that trauma by sort of projecting it onto this fantasy that that happened of being used by this praying mantis in the woods.
Well, Alex, he was forced to quit his job after sceptical colleagues dubbed him the Mantis Man of Warwick.
Right, Rob. So, did he want to quit the job, but didn't have the balls to do it, and so he came up with this story like the man in Arizona?
No, Alex. Look, he didn't want to lose his job. He's saying that sceptical colleagues, once he came out with his horrifying ordeal, they took the piss, and to the extent he had to quit his job.
Oi, Mantis Man, every day, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But Paul added he'd been left traumatised and now struggles to sleep after cycling through Oakwood and Blacklow Spinney shortly after finishing a 12-hour shift at a dog food warehouse on July 16th last year.
Hang on, there might be your answer. This is a man who already looks quite sleep-deprived. 12-hour shifts in a brightly lit dog food factory. If you don't sleep properly, right, even for a couple of days, and you're chronically sleep-deprived, you can hallucinate.
And also, can I just say, because he goes on to say it was on a Thursday morning at 5 a.m, so it was a night shift as well.
Okay. Also, did he mention anything about stopping en route to eat any mushrooms in the forest?
It doesn't say. So, but he did say, on a Thursday morning at 5 a.m, I was cycling home from work and saw something odd in the sky. It was a glowing orange sphere just hovering on the horizon. At first, I thought it must be Venus or a satellite, but it seemed to be much closer than either of those things. There is a picture as well, by the way.
I think it was Uranus.
Alex, I don't feel you're taking this man seriously. He's been through a really traumatic ordeal.
What I love about the picture that he drew is that if you look at it carefully, you can see the pencil outline underneath it. He went to the trouble, Rob, of first drawing it in pencil and then tracing it with pen.
Yeah, we used to. What's wrong with that, Alex? We used to do that in primary school. You do it in rough, and they do it in best. He wanted to make sure that he gave the best possible description, just in case anyone has to suffer the same ordeal.
All I'll say is that a commenter here just says maybe it was a regular praying mantis, and he was just a lot closer to it than he thought.
Well, look, this is the last part of the story, but I think we need to... He continued, as I cycled down the path, I came around a bend and I saw something I will never forget. Standing a few metres ahead is what I can only describe as a humanoid praying mantis. The thing was at least 7 foot tall, light green with a triangular head and big oval black eyes. It had all the features of a mantis, but stood on 2 legs and somehow human-like shape about it.
Well, I didn't hear any of that because I'm going to tell you something. You do not want to click on links on the Star. I've just been very distracted by things I shouldn't have been on the podcast, and I apologise. That was very wrong of me. And anyway, while I regain my composure, Rob, do you want to read that to me again? I apologise sincerely. I heard something about the woods.
Have you been clicking those sexy links again, Alex?
Well, every link.
Yes,
I just clicked a link about a millionaire model in Australia, and I'm afraid I got distracted. I apologise.
Was it worth clicking or?
Yeah, yeah, I'll send you the link.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's fine, Alex. The listeners heard, and that should be sufficient.
I'll hear it in the edit. Right. Thanks for that, Rob and Amy, from wherever you are. Right, Rob. Before we get to headlines which never made it, that brings us to the end segment, the home stretch of LA Podcast, Rob. Episode 333, Rob. We look forward with a mixture of eager anticipation, yet some degree of trepidation, to our next episode, which will be 334, Rob. As we move ever more forward, Rob, like a man staggering home after having a drunken Scottish kiss with a woman that, of course, resulted in half of his tongue being removed. That is the way. And returning home and just, letting the blood swish around in his mouth, mixed with the alcohol, of course, and just reminiscing on what a beautiful evening that had been, and a great story for the lads. Just like that, we move ever more forward to our next episode, which will be episode 334. As I say, we can be found on our website, lapodcast.net. You can download all of the episodes from there if you'd like to do it the manual way. We're on all the podcast app, of course, wherever you find us, or leave us a review, hit subscribe. The reviews do really help us, so do that if you can. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LA Podcast, Twitter @LA Podcast. You want to submit us a story, post it on Facebook, tweet it to us, or email us the good old-fashioned way, lapodcast.net@gmail.com, lapodcast.net@gmail.com. You can't send us any mail because you can't. Right, Rob, it's time now for the headlines which never made it. How many have you got, Rob? I've got 5.
4.
Okay, I'll start then. Woman found inside ceiling of Southeast Edmonton school.
What?
Basically, some people in this school in Edmonton, I think it was California, heard these strange noises coming from inside the school. The police came and did an investigation. They found a woman hiding in the ceiling. They don't know why she was there or what she was doing.
Okay, fair enough. Right. Wanted man hands himself into Sussex police for peace and quiet after getting fed up with the people he was living with.
Okay. Chinese man causes outage after sit-ups atop power pole. Report.
Okay.
This man scaled a giant electricity utility pole, like a pylon, to do sit-ups off the top of it, and caused a power cut to thousands of homes.
Amazing. California doctor performs surgery whilst appearing at video court traffic appointment. Have you not heard about this story? This went viral.
No.
So he was literally operating as he attended a court appearance, and the judge put a stop to it.
Right. Okay.
He was in full scrubs. Yeah.
Well, actually, then that segues on. I'm sure you saw this. Texas lawyer trapped by cat filter on Zoom call informs judge he is not a cat.
Oh,
that went viral.
I
absolutely love that. Okay.
Brilliant.
On to you, Rob.
Again, quite fittingly, cat avoids high-speed dash north by a whisker after being found on train roof at Euston Station. This was only yesterday.
So what did it avoid, sorry?
It avoids a high-speed dash. So basically, a cat delayed a train at Euston by sitting on the roof. So they had
it pulled away with him on there, eventually it would have been thrown off, wouldn't it?
Well, yes, but Alex, there are good people in the world, and they literally got a different train, and
just for the cats. I think
yes,
no, it
Alex.
wasn't worth. No.
This is a nation of animal lovers, Alex. I know you're not one of them.
Officials release information on 2 males on a mattress floating down the river. They were found, basically, Rockford Fire Department in the United States, and they found 2 males upriver. Basically, they'd been fishing on an ice sheet, and the ice sheet broke free from the shore and began to float down the stream, and they managed to find a mattress floating around in the river and got on that, and they'd been on it for hours.
Fair enough.
I don't know if they made love on the mattress as a way of keeping warm, but one can surmise that they probably did.
You would hope so. Mum threatens to put kids on eBay after they redecorate a house with talcum powder.
Right. And is this the last headline? Or have you got one more?
Yes.
Last
that's
headline
the last
of the week. Police. Man hits priest, barricades himself in Florida church.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, thank you very much. This has been extraordinarily... Actually, I cannot believe how long this episode is going to be, so we need to finish it. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We enjoyed your company, as always. We're going to be back next week with Daft Talk episode...
25!
Episode 25 of Daft Talk, and a week after that be episode 334 of LA Podcast. God bless.
And keep it local.